What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Bourbon and Bullshit podcast with some good friends, great drinks, and a little bit of BS. So grab a seat, pour up something neat, and welcome to the show. All right, guys, welcome back to Bourbon and Bullshit. Today is part 2 of our Bourbon and Heavy Drinker episode featuring Tom Lucas of Heavy Drinker. We jumping right back into the thick of it and getting to know more about Tom and what brought him to this line of work, right? Because it's a pretty big leap. Not pretty big leap. Or you're doing your ex-military, ex-firefighter, 8 years in between the two roles. You are serial, CEO of a company, and you were IT long before that. I guess when you break it down like that, making a product that helps you drink will make sense. But we talked last about the firefighters, being a firefighter and military. But what eventually led you to sit there and say, I need to make a glass for people to slow the fuck down? We talked about it like, hey, it's important, right? But what made you say, I got to do this? I got to make this make sense.
I think it was a hybrid of things. I do lift weights on and off for my whole life. And I think that combined with the Norland glass, because my buddy had one and it was the regular one. It wasn't the new heavyweight version that they did.
I love that glass.
It's fairly hefty. And I think I was actually sitting with him on his back deck. We were having a cigar and a drink, and we were talking about exercising and laughing because we were sitting there smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and not exercising even remotely close to like doing anything exercise wise. But the idea that weightlifting can be very zen and very help you internalize focus and again block out the static. I think it was one of those things where I went, wait a minute, like wouldn't something really heavy kind of connect you to the moment? Like we talked about in part one, even if it's only so that you don't drop it and break your foot, but you have to focus on it because it's got mass. It's got, and one of the I knew this word before I started listening to Jack Donovan, but he really goes down the rabbit hole on a word called gravitas, and it resonates with, yes, it's heavy, but it's heavy emotionally as well, right? And I think the idea of having something with that much mass in your hand would help you to focus, because I think focus and being present is emotional and mental, but it's also physical. And I think that's why CrossFit and weightlifting and competitive sports can be it's like marathon running. There's a point where your body and your mind and your spirit all kind of line up. And I think the physical part of that has to be there. It can't just be emotional and mental. It has to be, the physical side of it has to be there. And that started rolling around in my head. And I was like, well, what if I just had a heavy glass? What if I had a glass that when it's in your hand, you can't ignore it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a pint glass that you would typically get a beer in, you never think of the glass, but beer is a different experience, right? And beer is a speed up thing. It's not real. I guess you could.
I guess depends on kind of beer. We're not here to shit on people who drink beers. There's some stouts out there, triple IPAs, triplets, or whatever the fuck you call
it. Again, freedom, right? It's for everybody.
Drink your inferior spirit. Go ahead.
But that's really what the catalyst of it was going, what if I just tried this? And I did. I made my own heavy glass. I taped some stuff to the bottom of a glass and I was trying it out, and I went, yes, this kind of, and that led me into, there was a synergy there because I was listening to Jack Donovan. I was going down the pro masculine side of things in what I was reading and what I was listening to, because I'm an Audible guy, like we talked about in part one. Yeah. And it was that in combination with those other things, it kind of just all gelled at the time. Okay. And it turned into, well, how do I do this now? How can I make this something that I can share with people? And I pounded the website out in like 2 days. What's on the website now in terms of the mission and the ethos, and it literally is, that is where that all came out of me.
But go on. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, that's really where that came from, was that that it just gelled up, and I started trying to actually make something. And then because I knew Will, because Will has a company that makes it's called Custom Shrouds, and he's a firefighter. And when you're a firefighter, particularly if you're rural or volunteer, you get green lights or you get lights to put in your vehicle as a volunteer. And what he does is he makes a shroud so that when you turn that light on at night in your car, because those things are mounted inside your windshield, it doesn't blind you. And he's doing very well with that. But he was also a firefighter, and he was like, well, I'm using SolidWorks, which is the 3D modeling tool. I can help you out with that. So he printed me a couple of things. And originally I was going to try and make them out of concrete. I was going to take a Glengarry glass and put it in concrete and have the concrete set around it. And then the concrete was very problematic. It
probably breaks easy.
How would you clean it? Right. It's definitely not dishwasher safe.
That's literally the joke I was about to make. Like that's something Whirlpool is going to call you about. Hey man, stop making concrete glasses, please.
Stop putting them in the dishwasher. It's ruining it. But yeah, then that's where and again, we talked previous to going live on the last episode, was where the science started sticking its head in the door and going, you have material A and material B, and if you stick those together and they expand and contract at different rates, something's going to give. And it dragged me down this rabbit hole of the original idea was to have that base, epoxy to the glass. And then it became a secondary way of doing it. We are working on a glass now, Solomon, which will have the base attached. But we need to go through a trial and error. We have to experiment with several different epoxies from 3M. Everybody knows who 3M is. They make Scotch tape all the way up to the stuff that holds the tiles on the shuttle. And we're looking for a happy medium, right? That also is, so you'd be surprised at how expensive some glues can be.
Oh, I was actually about to ask you, it was like, that can't be cheap also to have something that is not going to be susceptible to any like temperature changes and rapid temperature changes or anything like that. Something that holds its integrity for a long amount of time, because I'm certain that you don't want a product that isn't, you're not going to put your name on a product that isn't going to last, right?
Exactly.
So why would and that's a bad look. And I don't imagine that you want to have a business where it's like you're doing returns every 14 minutes.
Yeah, or hurting somebody. I mean, that fracture could happen while you're drinking it. It's terrifying to think of what could go wrong if that isn't done properly.
I'm such a piece of shit. I didn't even think about the fact that rapid change in temperature is like the movie Final Destination. Words are hard today. It's a Friday night, guys. Destination. I don't know. I pronounced half of the word. Destination, where that glass and rapid temperature change could shatter in someone's face.
Yep. It's one of those things.
Scary.
You have to go through the product testing and the iterations to get it done. And it's fun. I like doing that. This is my hands-on type of thing. Brent gets to play in the garage. He gets to get samples. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I like getting new perspectives. So talking to an engineer at 3M is like we're doing now. Oh, that was a 45-minute conversation. It took I felt like a 5-minute conversation, because you're talking about stuff you're excited about, right?
Yeah. When you're passionate about something, it feels like nothing's happening.
Yeah, it's fun. And I'm a geek. I was IT geek, and now I'm a science geek, and I geek out about, thermal transference and epoxy modularity and whether or not it can expansion and contraction modes and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm throwing out words that people have told me I have no idea what they mean, but I'm going to
learn. I just regurgitate. I'm parroting.
That expansion mode. I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah. Intelligent. But anyway. But yeah, and it's been fun going on those rabbit holes, right?
That's dope. And
the Solomon, I think it'll be a success. It'll be the glass I wanted to do in the first place, which is a heavy glass. But humans are hard.
You know my address, Tom. Like you know where to,
it's coming, brother. It's coming.
But all right, so we have the Solomon coming up, which I'm excited about the name. Shout to Spirits of French Lick. They did give us a Solomon. Oh, I left it in the other room. A rye whiskey called Solomon something. Jesus, I should have brought that in here. I just drank some of it. That's what the mixed drink is.
Well, now you know what you're putting in the glass. What I said into it. You're going to put Solomon in a Solomon.
Yes, that's going to feel poetic. Real quick, for anyone who's listening, who's always, because I've had some people shout at us like, "Hey, what was the drink of the day and what the recipe?" we remade the rhyme and reason today. Lib and Co has a great recipe using blood orange cordial on it. It's 3/4 of an ounce of the blood orange cordial. I think it was a half ounce of orgeat, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, and about an ounce and a half of whiskey. Mix that together. It gives you a brilliant, beautiful red. It's gorgeous. It's delicious. Fuck around it. Just order from Liber and Co.
Nice.
Like they're not a sponsor by any means. They do not pay any bill. I
Yeah.
just recognize good products. Them, I use every time I order any syrup, anything from them. It's like, oh, I can make this. No, I couldn't make this. I could not make as good as they just did this. I'm not skilled enough. Amateur home bartender. I'm not even a professional home bartender. And these people make great products. So definitely the rhyme and reason, RYEME, rhyme, because rhyme whiskey, rhyme and reason is a delicious cocktail. Definitely check that out. I want to jump into another thing during our pre-interview, the first time that we discussed this. You brought something up and you just casually try to skate on by it. You hold a role within something called the Whiskey Tribe. Not only do I want to know what the role is, or the not the role, but I guess the Patreon level,
Yes.
and what the heck the Whiskey Tribe is.
So Whiskey Tribe is a couple of guys who were doing a whiskey school. So
a whiskey school.
A whiskey school. So it was basically like you could get a sommelier level understanding and a certification on bourbon and whiskey and scotch in Texas, believe it or not. Yeah. They're in Driftwood, which is about 25, 30 minutes south.
Someone do that in Florida for me?
Right. But to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not entirely sure how I stumbled upon the channel. They have a YouTube presence, and I think I came across them on YouTube. And part of all of their videos are about what's going on at the distillery, or what they're doing in the early days, how they were working with the Patreon group to bring money in and where the money was going. And that led to their motive being on YouTube was they would get through that stuff and it was very interesting, but then there was always shenanigans at the end of it. Like one of them, they put Rex in a bourbon barrel and rolled them down the driveway just to see what would happen.
They put what in a bourbon barrel? Really,
yeah, it was Rex, one of the guys who is basically running it, right? But there's always shenanigans. And I got hooked on the channel, and they had a Patreon. And obviously, sometimes with Patreon, when you get to the higher levels, there's a limited number, and you're not going to get in there until somebody else drops out. And my contribution as a Baron, I was just on the Patreon page one day, and there was an open spot, and I went, I got that. Let's do it. So part of that level of Patreon commitment, it helps fund what they're doing down, the operation of actually making whiskey, and they're getting into making beer now. Yeah. But you also get some perks. So I regularly would we get 4 bottle allotments a year. So 4 times a year, I get to pick a bottle that I want. Now, because of the way things are wired in Texas, they can't ship alcohol.
Yeah, you were telling me.
Distributors can ship alcohol, so they would have to send it to a distributor and everything else. And I'm like, I'm in Canada, and they're like, well, that ain't gonna happen. And I'm like, great, just put them on a shelf, and eventually I will get down there. And that eventually is actually going to be in October. Every year they have what's called the Bastards Ball.
How many bottles are waiting for you?
4.
This man.
4 bottles. I'm not even sure how I'm going to get them back, because I know I'm only allowed a 1 bottle allotment. I'm going down with my wife, so she gets 1 bottle. I'm probably going to get screwed on 2 bottles, but I don't care.
Let's relax. I flight to Austin is really cheap. You tell me. No, but so Whiskey Baron. So Whiskey Baron, but can you tell people a little bit about this distillery, because it's a unique thing too.
Yeah, so it's Crowded Barrel Distillery. They're in Driftwood, and they're a crowdsourced distillery. So in addition to getting the initial funding to get spun up to start making product that they could sell, which they're doing now, you as a Baron and as a participant in Patreon, you get to ask questions, do Q&As with them weekly, they do a Q&A and they release that. They take questions in and they answer the questions about what's going on. And you can ask them anything. You can ask them what's going on to the distillery. One of my last questions was, how are you guys using 5-gallon barrels as opposed to larger barrels? Because things age faster and differently in a smaller barrel because of the surface area ratio difference.
Yeah.
And then you also get to, they do polls where you get, like, the last thing we were doing was going through and picking the mash bill for the next brew. So you get to have input on what gets made at the distillery. We get input on how, we have polls on what it's going to be named. Right. So because it's crowdsourced, it's not you're throwing money at them and getting some nice, they do fantastic challenge coins. But you also get to put your opinion in and vote with the whole group of people on Patreon to tell those guys what you want made. So that's what the crowdsourced part of the Crowded Barrel is. So everybody gets input and we say, what do you want in the mash bill? And that takes a period of time. How do you want to do it? What barrels do you want to put it in? How long should it be in the barrel? Do we want to do a blend? They get barrels from other places and finish them at Crowded Barrel. So that's basically what it is. And
so you also get
whiskey.
You also get to vote or poll on how long it's kept for.
Yep. They have a rick house there. Texas beats on bourbon, man. I'll tell you, making whiskey and bourbon in Texas is a completely different experience than anything I was used to, because I'm from Canada, and like, it's the temperature fluctuations down there have a huge impact on barrel aging and how it's done and how long you can do it. And it's one of those things, but we get to pick what barrels they go into. They will buy barrels from other companies that are used barrels, and we finish with those. Like we're going in like 400 different directions at the distillery. So it's one of those things where everybody gets in. There's a Discord channel where we all jump in and just wade in and start talking about stuff. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a way to be involved without a gigantic investment as somebody you can be involved in a distillery. And while distilling is illegal everywhere, pretty much in Canada, unless you sell it or you make so much of it, it's like every other situation. If the government's not getting their cut, they're all over you. But I have a 10-gallon still, reflux and pot still that I use to. I have, where I live, there's some local breweries, and what I do is when they have a batch that goes sideways, or they have too much, or it didn't carbonate right, I'll make beer schnapps out of it. I'll put that in the still. And then beer schnapps is fantastic. You take a really good beer and you pot still it, every good thing about the beer comes right along with it. It's fantastic.
Did not know people were doing that. That is news to me.
Yeah, and the authorities will pretty much leave you alone as long as you're not selling it. Okay. And I get barrels brought up. I get 1-gallon barrels and put my make in that, and we have beer schnapps, and that's now barrel aged in American oak with number 3 char. And it's partially, that was where I got really into bourbon and whiskey, and that was what kind of led that whole. It wasn't linear. All of this stuff was kind of just a cloud of stuff. I
feel like there's like a web of like events that happen for you.
Fantastic. But I haven't actually been to Austin yet. This is in October. My wife said, you know what? It's been.
This will be your first time in Austin, Texas?
It's gonna. Well, I've flown through Austin, but this is gonna be my first time being in Austin, and it's also gonna be my first time at the distillery.
Brother, we will talk about where you need to go. I fucking love Austin, Texas.
We're flying up on the 11th, and then we're leaving on the Monday, so we're there basically for the weekend. And we were gonna try and find something down near Driftwood, but we're staying right downtown in Austin now because there's so much action going on there. I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's a Japanese fusion place that. Do you like barbecue? It's sushi and barbecue hybrid, and I'm like, I gotta go.
I don't know that one, but go. Yeah. There's a couple places. Roosevelt Room has a fantastic whiskey.
Okay, tell me about that.
They have a great cocktails, but there's floppy disk repair if you want like good speakeasies. Yeah. Franklin's Barbecue is like everyone goes like, but they have BYOB. Bring your own beer. You drink whatever the fuck you want, but people are lined up at 6 a.m. for their brisket.
Yeah. I think I'm almost positive I heard about that one, and it's like everybody's like, it doesn't matter. It's worth standing in line for.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because half the time you're just talking to people drinking with them. So it's
Yeah,
basically warming up at a bar at 6:30 a.m., getting the food when you're drunk, and then walking out and going somewhere else. It's
that's
like, oh, I've
awesome.
been drinking for like 3 hours. Oh, food. Great. Great problem to have. The biggest
Yeah.
concern is waking up and getting there at 6:30. But a lot of good things to be there, man. But so the Baron allows you to be at the ball, the Bastards Ball. Is that what
Yes.
you said? It was right.
Yeah.
Tell us about the ball. So this is going to be your first time attending, but
First time
what does
attending.
the Bastards Ball look like, and what goes into it?
So basically, it's if you're a Patreon contributor, you get to go there, and it's a tasting. We get to stick our noses in the barrels. There's some shenanigans, so there's like some games and stuff that we play. The facility's fantastic. They usually do a big barbecue.
Mm,
Texas, right? Seriously.
everything's bigger in
Um,
Texas and barbecue everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, and there's other companies in the complex where they are in Driftwood, so they contribute and come over, and it's really just everybody who owns the company, quote unquote, or funds the company, gets to come down and poke around. Like they consider it to be our place because
Mm.
we play a major role in operations and making decisions.
You pay the
So
bills. You
it's
pay the
always
bills
comes
and help
down
make the
to,
decisions. Yeah.
yeah. And they unplug barrels and we'll do barrel samplings, and you get to try products that like if I can't get them. I got one bottle up here. Uh Basically I sent it to New York, and I popped across the border because I'm about an hour away from
Yeah.
the border between New York and Ontario.
Mm.
And I sent it to a place there, and I
How was it?
smuggled it.
How was it? How was it?
Right. It was fantastic. It's
Mm.
fantastic. And it was, I'm like, okay, like I had some worries because it's like, well, I'm just trusting these guys to do this. And yeah, we were involved, but are they executing properly? And they're super executing properly. Um, they
Where's the
really know what
master?
they're doing. They really know what they're doing. And when they don't, and this is one of the things that really impressed me about them, is they would go find somebody who did. And in addition to bringing them in to solve that problem, they would learn from that. But they've already gone through like 6 stills. They're upscaling constantly.
That's a
Sales are good.
that's a dope level of humbleness. Like understanding I'm not an expert in the room at
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And some
It,
people won't do that. So I think
it
that's
is.
pretty. Who are the master distillers?
They've gone through 3 or 4 at this point, because what happens is people will come in and they'll contribute, but then they keep, as distillers go through their career, they move on. And the
Yeah.
whiskey trail in Texas, which I'm sure you know about, is dense and extremely active.
Yeah.
And they've distillers move around in that community fairly regularly. They move back and forth. Um, so they've gone through a few different distillers, and now they have a few blenders that are coming in and helping them pick barrels, do barrel picks from other places, and bring them in, blend them, and then finish them to make interesting stuff.
We actually really recently spoke about that. Me and a couple of friends. We conducted an interview. Conducted had an interview with some blenders. Bum, 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 bum. We had an interview with blenders out here in Winter Park, Florida. They've been doing it for a little bit and brilliant. Their stuff is fantastic. / from Winter Park, Florida. Um, if you ever have an opportunity to try their stuff, they are working with a lot of great high level people.
Yeah.
But was having a conversation about how states like Texas and other areas in obviously America are trying their damnedest to challenge Kentucky for that title. Like Texas is one of them that is up and coming, and they're doing some great things. They have not similar, but good seasonal, and the temperatures are well.
Yeah.
How much is actually lost with the angel share? All that is pretty
Huge.
on key.
Yeah, it's massive down there.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think I'm sure that other communities are like this, and
Mm,
like whiskey communities and distillery communities in other areas. But
mm,
one of the things that the tribe opened up through their YouTube videos,
yeah.
the Texas whiskey community is super homey. Everybody helps everybody. Nobody's
Yeah.
out for their own. If you're short a barrel, or if this is broken, or you need a valve, or like that community
I
down
like
there
that. I like
inside,
that.
yeah, it's really nice. And you see them collaborating
Yeah.
constantly. Everybody knows that you can't know everything, but if you know a bit and I know a bit, and they're two different bits, and we put them together, now we know more than we did 10 minutes ago. And I've
Yeah.
always loved that about their approach to how they work within that community in Austin and through the rest of Texas.
So This is not a prepared conversation. This next part is not a prepared conversation. I think that's cool to see what, not the bigger brands. Like when you hear Buffalo Trace, you hear Heaven Hill. I love their brands. I'm not shitting on their brands, but they're competing. These are big boys in a big fucking ring that have nothing to do with the little guys.
None.
When you are still a little guy, you are, let's all make it. Let's all get there. Let's all help each other. And there's a step when you become the big guy and the little guy where everything is hospitable and great. And I love that about smaller brands. And when we talk about crafts, distilleries, craft breweries, or anything like that, where it's a lot more homey, it almost feels more personal, where you have that same or similar frame of mind where everyone is helping each other out build.
Yeah.
So you see it in Texas. You see it in other craft distilleries like Castle and Key. I consider them craft. Castle and Key, Willet, all those, like they're smaller, more personable, more fun, more enjoyable to an extent. Yes, you might not get as much consistency because they don't have that kind of build power, but they get close.
Consistency. I understand
consistency is relative. I'm talking just scientifically. Like if you could afford to make 800 barrels of something at once, it's going to be different than the 80 barrels. Like I'm being facetious with the numbers, of course.
That consistency argument is the reason I like small distilleries and small breweries, is because the fuck factor, like some of the best stuff is a mistake. And when you're at the industrial level, mistakes are by engineering removed because you need 10% consistency of that product. And I get it. I love Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't find it. And there was thousands of bottles up here in Canada. Buffalo Trace was my number 3 bourbon I ever had. It was Four Roses, Wild Turkey. No, Four Roses, Maker's Mark, and they just went right out of my head.
Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah, it was my first 3 bourbons, and I love them, but they are not what you get from a small distillery that is moving around.
1,010%. There's a place for everything, right? So I use this conversation with food. I want to go to if I go to a new city or state, I'm going to their local dive bar. I'm going to their go-to restaurant. I'm going there. If I'm a city and state and I want something quick and easy, I'll go to Familiar. So I will go to I hate using Chick-fil-A.
We just got one up here.
Yeah, you just got one in Texas.
We just got one in Toronto, I think.
Yeah,
and it was a huge lineup. And I love Chick-fil-A. Whenever I'm in the States, it's what I eat, right? Whataburger.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say Whataburger or Sonic's. Like I know what I'm getting there because it's cookie cutter. But that's also boring, but it's reliable. So if I'm not taking any risks, I just need to get a job done, Buffalo Trace will be the perfect bourbon for me. Bullet Rye will be the perfect rye for me because I know what I'm getting every single time. If I'm experimenting, I want something a little bit more depth, more everything. I might go ahead and grab it. / experimental single malt whiskey, something like that. Like I'm going to get experimental. I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to go do something unique, but I know that not always it's beautiful. I've been fortunate enough to try this, so I know it's good and it's really good. But when you're trying a craft or something, you take that risk, right? So it's time and place for everything. If I'm making a cocktail at home and I need to know that how the bourbon's going to taste with the other assembly of ingredients that I'm doing or utilizing, Buffalo Trace makes sense because it's
the Corona argument. That's what I call it.
Corona argument.
It doesn't matter where you are on the planet. Corona tastes like Corona. If you're in,
that's right.
You're in some dark, horrible place in the southern horn of Africa, and somebody who says, would you like a beer? And Corona is an option. Get the Corona because
it's good and reliable.
What that's going to taste like.
Exactly. I know. What is it? Everyone who's not really open-minded with food. I know what chicken nuggets taste like. I know what chicken nuggets taste like. It's chicken. Exactly. I don't know how we got here, but I love it. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't drink and drive, guys. When we come back, we're going to get into the rest of our questions where we get to know Tom a little bit more. And we'll be right back. Hey guys, while you're listening to the show, we know that you might want to partake in some drinks with us and enjoy in the libations. Here at Bourbon and Bullshit, we ask that you drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Avoid Amazon one-click buy. And for the love of God, do not text your ex. You do not need that kind of closure. They've moved on. So should you, Joseph. You should stop Facebook stalking. She knows. She knows. Now, all jokes aside, don't do anything dumb. Take care of yourselves and be safe. Thanks, guys. Now back to the show. I want everyone to know that I don't know a Joseph who's obsessed with their ex. I use the generic name, and I'm certain 2 or 3 Josephs are like, Arthur, really? Like, I can't forget her. Like, I don't know you, man. I don't know you. But all right, so we talked about Whiskey Tribe. We talked about Crowded Barrel Distillery, which I will hit them up, and I'm going to CC you on it because I love to know their process. I love to know all that. And business expenses could be a trip to Austin. If you talk about that, it's a write-off. I can make some tax returns. Listen, so Brothers to the North is one of the questions and jokes that we kind of make a little bit, right? Canada. I joked in part 1 for those who are listening for part 2 about I have no idea what you guys have other than maple syrup, hockey, and Mounties and snow, which is a lie. I know enough about Canada because my fiance and I have been planning a trip out there for some time. But now that we talked a little about bourbon and whiskey, what would you suggest if someone was visiting Canada? And this speaks to everything I enjoy about alcohol or whiskey. Mm-hmm. What would you be like, other than Red Letter? We talked in part 1. Something I could walk into a store. You're like, these are the 2 or 3 things that you should try in Canada.
For sure, 40 Creek.
Okay.
Which was they are on both sides of the fence that we just talked about. So they started very small, 1 kettle, I think, and like a 50-gallon still they started very small, and now they're a big producer. They actually got bought. They got bought out by the big evil corporation, but they still do small batch stuff.
Okay, I'm not big enough to care. Who's the big evil corporation?
Interbrew. They do. Okay. They're now buying distilleries and stuff too.
Oh, that's unfortunate. All right. So, yeah. All right.
So
go on.
Or something very similar that may have changed hands again. But what I was starting to drink 40 Creek before I went to Scotland the first time. And then I was drinking 40 Creek neat. I was getting into the flavor and I was understanding. And then I went to Scotland and I went on a distillery tour and I came back and I then had to start putting Coke in it because I'd been spoiled over there for what it was. Not saying that 40 Creek is bad. As a matter of fact, they have a Confederation blend and a distiller's cut. And if you can get your hands on those, they're fantastic because Brent likes a custard note and they have that.
Do you just talk in third person and not use the name we've been introducing you as?
Tom. So, here, for the record, my full name is Thomas James Brent Lucas. I have 4 first names. All the grandparents to be made happy. So some people call me Brent. So, and here's the weird thing. My driver's license has Thomas James Brent. My health card has James Brent Lucas. Because whoever gets my name, typing it into the government computer, there's only so many space, and I almost never get all 4 of my names on anything but my passport. So
that's a unique problem to have.
It's weird, man. And it's, because I have several companies. One company, I'll be Thomas at Rugged Textiles, but I'm Brent at SJ Hardware USA, and I'm Thomas at Heavy Drinker.
Yeah. For anyone who is just tuning in, I was thrown off because there were 4 first names thrown at me in every correspondence. I was like, I don't know who the fuck I'm talking. Is there? And I asked him, I was like, is there a team of you? like, is there a team of you? No, it's just me.
Yeah, you just fall back to bro, buddy, dude.
Hey, bud. Hey, brother.
But so Tom likes a custard note. Yeah, and 40 Creek has that, and I really like them. So 40 Creek, and it's available. We have the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, where I am, and then there's liquor control boards for each province, which are basically states. And it's in distribution. You could go into any liquor store in Canada and find 40 Creek. It's ubiquitous and it's very Canadian and it's good. Just the regular bottles are good, but they do a lot of different blends, and there's probably something that would make you happy in terms of
For,
that.
for anyone listening who is like, oh, 40 Creek, is it good? Not necessarily, because you know us, we always do the research. 2020 Whiskey Maker of the Decade. 2022 Canadian Distillery of the Year by New York Inspirational Spirits Competition. 2020 Canadian Masters Blender of the Year, New York International Spirits Competition. And 2020 Whiskey of the Year, Canadian Whiskey Awards. Yeah, this isn't a brand that's fucking around. So, okay.
And the distiller's cut is from the distiller, and that distiller's cut was the one that won those in 2020. That was that particular blend that you now pretty much can't get anymore, unfortunately, because it all got bought up. And they had their barrel allotments that they did because they're a younger company. They used them all up doing that, so it's never going to happen again. We touched that on about Red Letter, it being a blend in barrels, and you're never going to get it again. So if you can find it, get it.
All right. What's a close second?
Yeah, Confederation Oak, they had bigger barrel depth on it, and you can still find Confederation Oak, which is the other one that has that kind of custardy note that I like. But that's 40 Creek.
Okay, that's still the same distillery, right?
Yes, all the same distillery.
Okay,
they just they just use their mount. Their blender is just brilliant. So that's 40 Creek. That would be everywhere. Trying to think where I would go for the next one. In terms of availability, probably Alberta Springs or Alberta Premium.
Alberta Premium is a distillery.
Yeah, and that's the name of the bottle too, is Alberta Premium. Alberta Premium has been winning awards forever. It's a rye, and it's people in Canada. So I want to make one thing perfectly clear. In Canada, we put Coke in Crown Royal. Crown Royal is not a thing up here. Okay. It's bar ale. It's meant to be mixed with stuff.
Yeah, I know, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's not. It's got a nice bottle, and it used to come in a pretty blue velvet bag, but it's not. It doesn't have the status up here I think it has in the States.
It doesn't have that status here. It's basically known for the no. We can talk about that, or randomly they have to make an apple or salted caramel or blackberry to be popular again. Yeah, straight up, you know what, fuck it, we'll do it. Though, if a brand has to make that many flavors, their original shit is trash.
Yeah, let's step all over it and put sugar in it because it's icky.
Yes, it's like, hey man, no one who actually drinks alcohol is drinking this. Let's make it so everyone who drinks like flavored alcohol is drinking this. It's like, oh, okay.
But it's not even that. That salted caramel, the implementation of it is horrible. It just doesn't taste good. They didn't do a good job of doing salted caramel
because they just sugared it up. But if you can make a flavored spirit and make it make sense.
Screwball.
I have
Screwball. Nailed it. Fantastic whiskey kind of drink. I will have a Screwball every now and then. It's just like, yeah, it's a little sweet, but peanut butter note. Well, it's really Reese's Pieces or Reese's
Reese's Cup.
Not really peanut butter.
Not pieces.
They nailed it. They fucking nailed it.
So Screwball. I have my best friend in the world, Kevin. I will fight. I will, if he says, "Hey, we gotta go," I'm going. He loves Screwball and Uncrustables. Those are his go-to cocktail and meal. He doesn't love it. He did it a couple of times in like a trip or something. But we were recently at Kentucky, and during the distillery tour, they're like, "Hey, like, who actually likes Screwball?" And he rose his hand proudly. I was like, "It has its place. It has its place. I can't drink too much of it."
No,
but no, yeah, because anything sweet. But
I cannot imagine the hangover you would have if you put down a whole bottle of Screwball, man. The sugar hangover alone would be epic.
The first bottle of Screwball is the same bottle of Screwball that I've ever bought.
Right. My wife loves it. So we have gone through, I think we're on our 4th bottle at this point. But yeah, it's diabetes. That's diabetes if you drink the whole thing in one sitting.
There's some flavor notes and all that stuff that you can do well. Like we have a Japanese whiskey that does really well. Let's see. There's a plum, like plum wine or whatever, but they have a Japanese whiskey that I tried that I really enjoy. If you do it well, it makes sense. If you're caring about the product enough to make it not just overly sweet and sugary to hide your inefficiencies at whiskey making. That sounds so
Exactly.
judgmental. But it's facts. Like everything has its place. If I'm on vacation in Mexico, I'm gonna drink whatever the fuck you pour at me. But if I'm at home, I'm not pouring screwball with like at home. If I'm making a flavored cocktail, that makes sense to have something with blackberries or blueberries or whatever the fuck, and there's something that has good notes, but it's not overly sweet. I'm gonna utilize it. Everything has its place. But Alberta Premium, they
Yeah.
have premium cast strength rye refill rye, Alberta Springs, Alberta Pure, Northern Keep vodka, and Banff Ice. Don't know any of these brands, so please tell me.
Yeah.
Tell
They're
me about
all
them.
they're all based out. That's a company that's based out of Alberta. So that's the Texas of Canada, basically. To be perfectly honest with you, that's what Alberta is, particularly Calgary. And they're all,
The Texas of Canada?
oh, for sure. Yeah.
How so?
Huge parallels. Very, very freedom loving, very anti-government, very pro personal rights,
Hmm.
very anti-tax, oil economy,
Oh,
oil-based economy, cattle-based economy.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's
Okay.
part of the Great Plains. It's literally it is the Texas of
Texas
Canada.
of the North.
Yeah, it's the Texas of the North, and they call themselves that regularly. But they also, as a province, they also give the federal government the finger at least once a year. Federal government's like, oh, we're doing this. And they're like, nah, we're not doing that. Fuck you. We're just not going to do it. Right. And everybody
That
in the
is
rest
Texas
of
of the
Canada
North.
goes, yeah, I wish we could do that. I'm moving to Alberta. Yeah,
Texas
nobody.
running around like we have our own power grid and water supply because we fuck the government. So,
Fuck the government. Like it's, yeah,
you're
it's
part
that
of
way.
us. You're hanging out with us. Like, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Bro, there's a very serious possibility that I am going to be moving to the United States.
yeah, we
There's
talked about that. You said you were thinking
something
about
called
Texas.
the EU investor, where if you have a business, you can move it down there and you can employ people. It is a way to get into the country. Now, it doesn't necessarily get you a green card, but as long as you're employing people down there
Hmm.
and making money and doing what Americans do so well, which is chase that dream, you can stay in the country, you can live in the country, you can pay taxes and do everything just like, and if you want to pursue your green card at that point, you can
Yeah,
emigrate and become a citizen. But um,
I
things
think.
are bad up here right now, like really bad, really,
Well,
really bad.
okay. Okay. We want to. I'm gonna touch on that a little bit later. I'm
Yeah.
curious because we've also had some guests on from the UK and other countries and other places, and that grass is greener thing is interesting because I feel like there's a conversation to be had, but we'll pause on it
Yeah.
because something stood out about Alberta Premium.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is it 100% rye?
Because they basically have wheat everywhere. It's
100% rye? I have not had anything 100% rye.
yeah, it's the breadbasket, and it's what they it's that recipe is something that they did when they were winning the West. There was rye everywhere. It was part of what the agricultural system was producing, and they went, well, let's just make it all out of rye. So they put rye in the mash. And what's in the mash bill? Rye. We're just fermenting that. That's it.
I live in the
And
wrong country.
over time, they got really good at doing the processing afterwards. Like after like doing the aging and barreling is where
Hmm.
that really gets. That's where that gets. You nail that, right?
Okay.
Because it's such a simple mash. Obviously, it's just one thing. It's what you do after, and that really makes the impact. But Alberta Premium's been winning awards globally as a rye whiskey for fucking decades, at least probably 100 years.
Yeah,
Um, and
I'm
it's
I'm
dude,
ignorant.
it's a plastic bottle.
Yeah, I swear to God, I was looking at the picture of the cap,
Yep.
and it looks like a screw off.
It's a screw off cap and a plastic fucking bottle, and it's fantastic. If you're into 100% rye, it's good booze.
I've never had it. I've
Yep.
never had it.
And
I'm
it's
scared.
the the volume at which you can
Not
make
scared,
something.
never
The
scared.
mash bill is one thing, right? They
Uh,
make an epic amount of that stuff out there. So, but
I mean,
that would be my number two would be that one
at
for
least
sure.
the storyline isn't too too complicated. It's like 100% right. All right, cool. We move on. Whiskey,
Sure.
cool. 40% ABV, cool. Like it just, I'm honestly really curious. So let's we got an expense card. We'll order one. Um, if that could actually come out here.
I
So
don't know if they're in the States.
can I probably there's a lot of sites that will order stuff. There's some like
Well, it's
back
easy for
channel.
you guys.
Yeah, because America's excess. I had a conversation with a friend in the UK, and they told me they don't have liquor stores like America does. I'm like, we have them like they are Walmarts. Like they're full ass, like half a plaza for a liquor store. It's like, what? I have to order stuff local, straight from the distilleries. No, we get
Yeah.
free samples at a Walmart
Yeah.
of alcohol.
Some of the Kirkland stuff is fantastic.
Oh, they've won awards.
Yeah.
Aldi's has won awards because they bought barrels from like major
Yeah.
distillers,
Yeah.
and they fucked
We
around and
just,
bought Pappy's and a Kirkland's brand. So they had to buy
see
power.
me driving to Watertown pretty soon if that happens. Um,
Mm.
we just got booze in convenience stores. Like not just booze, like beer and grocery stores.
I Tom, my mom used to hand me a note that said, "Please sell my son this beer
Yep.
in a bodega, in a little store in the corner."
Yep.
America is, I guess, more lush than I realized.
Well, and here's the thing. Quebec has had it since they were around.
Yeah.
You could always get beer and liquor and your smokes at the local convenience store. But
So,
everywhere else in Canada, it wasn't a thing. Alberta did it first, but Ontario, where I live, just got it, which is the most backward province in this whole goddamn country.
so what were
Uh,
you doing? Were you had to order stuff online, or what was going on?
oh, it was basically we had a beer store, which was a chain of stores that sold beer. And then there's the LCBO, Liquor Control Board of Ontario. How's that for lining it up? Liquor Control Board. That's all we do is control the liquor. They had a chain of stores, and to this, you will, if you get into the whiskey scene in Canada and particularly in Ontario, you will very quickly discover a monumental amount of hate for the LCBO because number one, they're crooked as hell. There's allotments come up of certain things, and then skids full end up on the secondary market, and they
Uh,
they import what sells, which leaves a very vanilla flavor landscape in what you can get at that store. It's terrible. It's a monopoly. It literally is a monopoly. Like just last week, every LCBO in the province shut down because they didn't want White Claw sold at convenience stores.
White Claw?
White Claw. They didn't want seltzers to be sold because right now
Why?
the only place you can get seltzers is at the LCBO, and they're all worried about their jobs. And they're like, well, we're just going to shut the stores down for 2 weeks. And they just didn't go to work. And I'm like, and people are like, oh, well, right to strike. And I'm like, you guys don't understand something. Number one, to be distributed through the LCBO, if you're a small maker, like a small brewery, a small distillery, a small vineyard, you're getting bent over already to the tune of 35% to get that distribution. And now you guys just turned it off for 2 weeks. If we're talking about people who are like vineyards where I live, these people are fucking farmers, man. They're not in Bordeaux with a magnum of something Beaujolais that is worth like $8,000. They're $40 bottles of wine. And when distribution stops, there's a very real threat to these smaller producers. It's ridiculous here. We've been calling for getting rid of the LCBO and getting rid of government control of it and deregulating it for decades. For decades.
It's crazy the cultural differences. In that same vein about like drama or allocating or controlling things, we didn't do it from federal government standpoint, but we have distributors that actually in 2023. I'll find out. Hold on one second. Sazerac Company filed a lawsuit against distributors RNDC LLC, the people that bring you your Buffalo Trace and everything. And they failed to pay 38.6 million in invoices for Sazerac products because they were holding them in the fucking storeroom. So the unpaid products have allegedly been shipped to RNDC and have likely already been sold to retail shops, but they weren't selling them to who they were supposed to. In 2020, it was 2022, RNDC announced it would terminate its contract with Sazerac. The two parties have since been struggling to define their working relationship, but there was a lot of like, hey, I'm going to send this to the people who hooked me up. Hey, I'm going to send these bottles of allocated BTAC, BTAC, or something along those lines of anything allocated, hard to find, to the right grease palms, or the palms of people who grease my palms. But so we have similar like corruption when you talk about like allocated, hard to find, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Not at a government level, I guess. Not that I can prove right now. This isn't that type of podcast. Tune into bourbon and conspiracy theories. At a later date, when I've been drinking a little bit more and maybe have a tinfoil hat. But
And right there,
our,
that's where you got to put the X-Files right in there.
yeah. I love that show. I really do. But RNDC had a recent thing, and it was something crazy because now we're facing the opposite. Everyone is getting everything now. So what used to be highly allocated, like Stag and Stag Junior,
Yeah.
and all these
Yeah.
things, are just like, I could go to my Publix, which is our supermarket. You obviously don't have Publix, and just be like, yeah, let me. They have a Stag Junior. They have what used to be third party, like a $500 bottle for $68. So
Right.
which is great. I don't care about the fucking rarity. I care about the experience. But
Yes.
hold on, let me see if I can get this.
Oh, it's cool.
Enough of that.
Absolutely cool. Nailed it.
Oh,
Bourbon and
but
conspiracy.
I need a tinfoil hat. And sorry for that big soundbite, everyone. Hopefully you didn't blow out your speakers. But we're doing this in real time. So
Yeah.
if you want me to have a whole production crew, sign up for the Patreon. It's gonna be in the show.
Excellent segue, brother. Excellent segue.
Yeah, but no, we had similar things. So that's crazy though. Like I didn't realize the cultural differences was that far that different. Obviously America has a big foothold on alcohol in other states, and I mean other states, other countries. I've been in Mexico and recently DR, and we have some things that we make sure we sell duty-free stores, all that. But that's for a different day. So I should definitely check out Alberta Premium, and I
Yes.
should definitely check out 40 Creek.
Yes.
Brothers from the North. I love those because Crown Royal has let me down more than once in my life, or led to really interesting stories.
Yeah.
So we talked about your brand.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about the future of it. We talked about Norland Glass. We talked about that influence. They've done a lot of things. There's other brands as well. One of my favorite brands, not a sponsor, but if they want to fuck around and find out, Age of Nor. They do travel sampling glasses, bottles.
Oh, I think those were the ones that I was talking about when I was talking about this being like the short-term solution. It's got that beautiful rubber wrap on it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I'm going, man. Is there.
Exactly. So yeah, we talked
Totally
about it a little bit. They're not a sponsor, but if we fuck around and find out that this is heavy drinkers, but they have the customability where they have like some brands could buy it thing. Other than what we've already discussed, obviously the wrapped bottles and everything, what's the next on your agenda? What's the goal? Like, what would you like to create that speaks to either drinkers or just who you are as a person?
I really just want to keep doing the glasses, and I really want to reach out to men in particular and let them know that, I mean, this is really more about the culture thing for me than it even is about the glasses. I want the glasses to be a good experience, and I want them to be a quality product, but I want them to lead to something deeper. I really want that. As I said earlier, and I'll say it again, not everybody likes Jack Donovan, but I think he has the ability, the way he speaks, he's very eloquent, and he says a lot of the things that I want to say better than I could ever say them. And it saves me a lot of frustration. But I want to have an impact in men's lives because I've seen myself and my friends go through stuff needlessly, when all we really need to do is just take a little bit of control and take some time for ourselves and take stock and get grateful. Just stop culture, man. It's all about that. If I could help somehow push that out and make it more widespread in male community, that would blow my mind. That would be my ultimate goal. I would be super happy about that.
So I'm going to go ahead and just shoot something at you. What about a travel decanter or something that you can share with a friend that comes with a built-in glass?
Yeah.
Something like that. Something. So you want to kind of almost emulate and create that moment for people, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's pretty dope. And I know with the retail box, the leather coasters, the soapstone, we have some other ideas throwing around there. And the full line of barware. Is there like a goal? I know we want to just kind of create that, continue on that idea, but got to make money to make the dreams go through. Like, is there
Oh,
something
absolutely.
else that you're like, this could be the next step to get into where I want to be?
Right now, I think it's going to be actually doing the first glass that I wanted to do in the first place, which is actually a heavy glass.
The
Right.
one with the
The,
epoxy and everything.
the Solomon is that. That is the one that we're prototyping now, and that's the glass I've always wanted to make. It's the glass I want. It's the one that I want in my hand when I'm home. Not to say that I don't want the Harper, but that was the original goal of my offshoot into this world. And I didn't actually nail it on the first pass. I created something cool. We created something cool. I didn't make this on my own. I had a team of 4 guys helping me make this, and they're all on the website. Um, I'd really like that to happen, and then I really want to work more with Mark. Mark Armstrong is a glass blower here in my local town, and he's been blowing glass for 35 years. He can do anything. He can do stuff with glass that'll just blow your mind. And I'd really like to go down the rabbit hole with him on a custom line of glasses that are really focused on bourbon and whiskey, and making, doing what Norland did and going down that rabbit hole with them, but something that's very, very handmade and very artisanal, for lack of a better word. But in the short term, if I can get the Solomon nailed down, and that's really the next big thing for us, I think.
I think that'll be awesome. And you got to start somewhere, right? You have to product development, trial and error, get
Oh,
it
so
right.
much trial and error.
Yeah.
So much trial and error.
Who are you telling? Like,
Not making money yet, trust me.
who are you telling? Listen, like, I think that's pretty awesome that you have a plan. You still get to now make the glass you were hoping for.
Yeah.
3M works out, everything works out. It's awesome, and I think the sky's the limit with creating barware, glassware, and everyone has their niche, and everyone has their audience. Like Norland, they created something. I'm not a sponsor by any means,
Yeah.
but they found a niche and just dedicated it. They said, this is who we are, regardless of how fucking just niche we are.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing something not many people are doing.
Yeah.
And created a line that made them the standard. And I am assuming that that's the goal with Heavy Drinker.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'd like to share that with them. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a competition. There's plenty of pie.
No, I'm saying you want to create your own world, like your own kind of like Marvel verse or whatever the fuck we want to call it.
I mean, they really nailed it, and their marketing is spot on. All of it's spot on. I would like to see the same thing for Heavy Drinker. I'd like to see that us be like a brand that people went to and said, I'm going to embrace stop culture, and this the spirit tool I'm going to use to do that.
Yeah, that the hashtag has to be part of everything. Embrace stop culture.
Stop
And
culture, spirit.
Yeah, and I will tell you to your face that even seeing in the last 4 months, 3 months that we've known each other.
I think so. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. Even your social medias, everything's elevated. Everything's getting like even your production, everything. So you are obviously working towards that goal, man.
Hey, I upgraded my camera. I got an S23 now.
Yeah, Samsung's not that great. No, it's all jokes. It's all jokes. I'm an Apple guy.
Apple guy. Said the guy who's being interviewed on his Mac.
You're interviewing me on a Mac where you could do fireworks, and you're using a set. We're not doing that, Tom. I need consistency out of you. I need consistency.
Man. I used to run DSLRs. I was a Canon freak for years, like D3s, D5s, all of that. I had thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and I just ended up shooting stuff on my iPhone. And then I went to Android.
I won't lie to you. There's a convenience factor too, and I don't have a production crew. But I think that there's something cool to be said about creating a product and being the standard. Is like blue versus red marketing or whatever, or product building. Do you want to be the best option out of everyone in the market, or do you want to be a unique option that no one else is in the market for? So I think that you have a unique opportunity to keep going. And I've been watching your growth, and I'm not saying because you're on the show. I've seen the brand build. Yeah. I've seen you take more of a, hey, this aesthetic approach. Like watching picture one versus the most recent post, it's like, all right, this man's improving.
I'm
This,
heading in the right direction.
yeah, heading in the right direction. I mean, same could be said about us. I'm by no way means or any form like the Rogan podcast or something. So
Exactly.
keep building on it and keep working on it, man. I'm excited to see what the fuck you got going on. I'm excited to what I can convince you drunkenly to put the Bourbon and Bullshit logo on. Just gonna get you drunk one day and be like, hey, this would be really cool. Like,
Dude, I'm telling you, I did not do this on my own. I have
yeah,
fantastic people helping me, and you're one of them. I have absolutely would have no problem with that. You come up with a great idea, shoot it my way. I'll cut you in.
you're. I don't care about cuts. I care about my logo. But yeah, that'll work too.
We're still having a hell of a time laser engraving glass. It's practically impossible. We're probably going to have to switch gears and do something else.
We're actually we're actually, believe it or not, for anyone who signs up for the Patreon for $25 or more, we'll be getting 2 glasses with the logo in it. That's going to be announced soon. Nice. 2 heavy rocks glasses with our logo branded on it. So that's going to come soon. We have a couple parties coming up, then local events so if anyone wants to sign up, it's coming. It like you said, passion project, right? We got a 9 to 5. We do this on our spare time. But I'd love to see it, man. Anything you want to share with anyone before we close out? Because we're at that part 2 section of this, man. Anything you want anyone to know, anything you want to share? It could be off the fucking cuff. I don't care right now.
Just honestly, it's going to be 90. It's kind of tangential, but in the military, we used to do stuff called buddy checks. Just reach out to your friends, make sure they're okay. I know COVID's over. I know we're all back to the new normal in our regular lives, but just try and reach out and stay in touch with those people, particularly the guys who are in your inner circle, in your tribe, and just make sure they're okay, man, because it's okay to not be okay, but we all have to know that you're not okay in order to give you any kind of help. So just please reach out to each other and be in touch with each other, because that's really the most important thing. At the end of the day, a glass is a glass and a drink is a drink. But if your friends aren't there to share it with you, what's the point?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And speaking as a friend, a person who's lost 2 people, like a couple people to like suicide and all that. Yeah. It's not always who you think is struggling. So always check in on people. It could be the person who's the funniest, the most social, the loudest, the person who has infinite social battery. Yeah. I mean, we hear about it. Not to jump so into a heavier topic, but check in on the homies, man. And not be afraid. And don't be the atypical person who's like, I can't show emotions because it's weak. Bro, it's cool to, it's fine to fucking cry. It's fine to tell someone you love them. It's fine to hug somebody. Yep. Be who the fuck you want to be. 100%. And I think that's something I always drive home. My friends, my buddy Mikey even actually brought it up. He's like, hey man, I love who the fuck you become because you're so much. I'm like, I've always been open. You're not here anymore. So I have to tell you over the phone as opposed to showing it like physically. He's like, shit, you're right. I was like, yeah. Well, you got to be who the fuck you want to be, but make sure you check on your homies, make sure everyone's good around you. And it's important. I think part of why I even started the show was when I thought about, the best memories, the most fun nights, it was sitting around a fucking bullshit crickety ass table that we're bitching about it's fucking falling apart, drinking with friends, saying the most random stories, sharing the most random, like, what animal do you think you could fight in a fist fight and win? What some bullshit ass conversation. It's like, all right, if you could have
I've had that fucking conversation.
Yeah. If you could have a cut of meat from any mythical animal and have that in a meal, like who the fuck is picking Kraken? But shit, like, but just like having these are the moments, and it was because at that point nothing else mattered but that moment, and being able to sit there and go, this is fucking great. Yeah. Like that moment is great. You remove yourself from your everyday grind. You remove yourself from any forces of pressure and being something you didn't need to be. And not to get into a whole deep fucking conversation, but Bourbon and Bullshit is based on that. I want to make sure that everyone at home knows that if you need anything at any fucking time, I am not a massive podcast by any means. Shouts to those who have been supporting, but if you need a friend, need to talk to anyone, please let us know. We're happy to talk to you and hit us up. For all those who do not want to reach out, hate to fucking do a plug like this, but 988 suicide and crisis lifeline, if you want to call them, always available. We are big proprietors, big donators to American Suicide Foundation, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Actually, we spend a lot of money because I want to make sure people are taken care of. And we've lost too many friends to suicide. And I'd rather hear you call me at 3 a.m. and say, hey, I'm not okay, than me fucking have to speak at your funeral. So
Yes,
wake
absolutely.
me the fuck up if that's what you
Wake
need.
me the fuck up.
I don't give a shit. You could knock on my door and I'd be like, hey man, I'm not a cool. Sit the fuck down. Let's have some. I will cook something up. I'll make some eggs, bacon, whatever the fuck you need. Let's have it. But Tom, pleasure, man, talking to you. Where can people find you? We know we did this part one, and I hate to go from such a deep conversation to jumping to the exit. But all good things have to come to an end. And I promise you, I will drop some more stuff in the show notes. And I'll slow it down. I speak really quickly normally. Drop some stuff in the show notes if you guys need help. I'm not sponsored by them. BetterHelp has been coming up a lot, and making sure that anyone who is going through some shit, because we've gotten into some heavy topics in it, right? Part one, PTSD, all that. I just think it's warranted at all. I warranted to at least talk about it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems with mental health is that we avoid it like it's a stigma, like it's the fucking plague. Like, oh my God, something's wrong with you. No, motherfucker. I just happen to say it out loud. There's something wrong with all of us. I want to say wrong. We're all going through our own things. Don't fucking stigmatize it. But I will drop that in the show notes, so no need to necessarily drop it. But where can people find you? And where can people support the product and everything you got coming up? And where can people find the bourbon and bullshit glasses that are coming up soon?
So
I love the face. You're like, this motherfucker.
well, heavy drinker is I love I came up with it, so obviously I love it. If you just type heavy drinker into Google, you are not going to find my website. you will find a lot of like AA and a bunch of other stuff.
You know what? That's fair.
So, yeah, that's fair. From an SEO standpoint, I fucking shat the bed on that one. It's terrible. So it's heavy drinker, all one word, .ca. And from there, you can get to our IG channel and our Facebook. We're pretty much limited to those two. We have a Twitter feed, which I'm probably going to retire. It depends on how Musk is next month. But yeah, that's
that
really
changes daily.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So yeah, it's IG, Facebook. I'm pretty sure if you type in heavy drinker Facebook, it doesn't work either. But go to the website, heavydrinker.ca, and you can get to our socials from there. And of course, you'll have links in the description below. But it's pretty much the website now. And then the IG is, we don't post on Facebook. We post from IG, and everything just gets shoved to Facebook.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. Hashtag small businesses. Listen, well, this is one of your small ones.
Right.
Well, Tom, always a pleasure having you. For anyone who's watching the show, following the show, it's going to be at bourbon_and_BS, because I'm not, monetization. I can't curse as much as I want to. As you can tell, a lot of videos we've been posting, follow us on TikTok, Bourbon and BS podcast. We have it on there. There's a lot of random funny things that I like, sharing some histories, sharing some facts, sharing some cocktail recipes, and making drinks for my fiance, because there's not many people who are that important to me. Don't get mushy. But if you are liking what we're doing, leave a 5-star review, like, subscribe, share, give it to your fucking ex and tell her that she ain't shit. I don't care. As long as more people leave a 5-star review, I appreciate it.
Right.
And, yeah, right. Hate, send it. Here, you deserve this. That's so fucked up. But if you do want to support, Patreon link will be in the show notes. Appreciate everyone who's been hanging out with us. And we're going to keep doing this. Stay tuned for stay tuned for some really great upcoming shows. We have some owners, operators, and businessmen and women from multiple organizations. We have small business is part of our current run. So we have a lot of speakeasies, cocktail lounges, tattoo artists, content creators, and all that locally that we are going to be interviewing soon. So we will be looking forward to it. So stay tuned to everything we're doing. And if you want to be on the show, you want to participate, don't hesitate to reach out to the Bourbon and bspodcast.com. And you can get your stories told here. So looking forward to everything we're doing. And guys, as always, don't drink and drive. Avoid Amazon one-click buy. don't text your ex because she doesn't deserve you. He doesn't deserve you. You could do so much better. And drink safe, drink responsibly. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Burn Termite and Pest Control. I first met Joe Byrne on Full Frontal Nerdy Show and decided to give his company a try. They have been the best pest service I've ever had. From flexible scheduling, attention to detail, fair pricing, and everything you love about a small business, I highly recommend Joe Byrne and Burn Termite and Pest Control. It's a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience in termite and pest. You can reach Burn Termite and Pest Control at 321-297-7985. Once again, 321-297-7985. And let them know Bourbon and Bullshit sent you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.